Okay, good morning. Today is Sunday, the 12th day of Sivan. We know the 12th day of Sivan is a very special day. It is the day of the end of the Tashlumim, the making up for Shavuos, meaning filling up for Shavuos. It's not just that in the time of the temple we had more time, extra 6 days to bring the offerings that we could not bring in the first day. Because on Shavuos, of course, we do not have a Chol HaMoed like we have a Pesach and Sukkot. So where they give us the extra days. But Tashlumim means also completion. That means whatever we got on Shavuos, the Torah, is being completed. And it's being completed because it's connected with us. We are, the purpose of the Torah is to bring down to this world. And here in this world, we should be able to absorb the Torah in our capacities, in our physical world. So today we begin with the chapter 4 in the Tanya, in the Shaar Hayichud VeHaemuna, the second part of the Tanya, which talks about the unity of God, the faith in God. And we learned in last chapter, chapter 3, the Alter Rebbe explained the concept of what it means, the reality of this world. Where's the real reality? We have Hashem, God creating us. He explained how the mistake of the heretics who think that God created the world, but then he pulled away, so to speak. And that, of course, explains because they are thinking in human terms. A creator, an artist creating a piece of art doesn't have to be in this piece of art. And versus when Hashem creates the world, it creates something from nothing, and therefore he has to be there constantly. We use the analogy of seeing an image in a mirror. So when you see the image in the mirror, and you move away, the image is gone. So the image is there only because of that there is the person, the real person, or whatever is reflected in the mirror. And the Alter Rebbe brought the example of the sun. And that is to say that really you have the sun shining. When the sun shines, you see the ray of the sun. There's a separate existence. You look outside and you see the sun. You don't see the sun itself. You see the shine of the sun, the light of the sun. But the light of the sun, the way it is in the sun itself, is completely nullified. It doesn't, like it's not existing. It loses its whole existence. And the same thing he says is by us. God created us, but we are like we are in the light of the sun. The light within the sun. However, he left off last chapter with a question. And the question was that in the end of the day, it's not the same as the sun. Because the fact that we can see here the light of the sun as a separate entity is because it is outside of the sun. Physically, the sun is in one place and the light is in another place. And that is why we can see the light of the sun as a separate entity. Yes, when the light in the sun is within the sun, it's nullified, but when it's outside of the sun, you can see it as a separate entity. But this is not the case when we're talking about Hashem, God. God is not in another place. He's everywhere. He's here too. So the question that he left off last chapter was, how come we feel ourselves as separate entities? If Hashem is everywhere, we should feel anywhere, everywhere, just like the light of the sun feels the way when it is in the sun. Because Hashem is everywhere. God is everywhere. So if God is everywhere, we should everywhere feel this nullification to God. We should be completely nullified in his existence. So here in chapter 4, it begins the explanation that is going through to be explaining throughout this second part of the Tanya. And that is the concept of the tzimtzum, the contraction, the powerful contraction that Hashem is able to contract is infinite light and to allow us to feel as independent existence. And he uses the verse that it says in the Tehillim, Ki shemesh u'magen Hashem Elokim. God, Havayah, Hashem is Yud Kei Vav Kei, the name of God. Elokim is another name of God. They are, Hashem Elokim is like a sun and shield. In the simple way, the way you read the verse, you're saying that Hashem, God, our God, is like a sun and like a shield. He gives us sun, gives us light, he protects us, he does everything. But here the Alter Rebbe comes and he says, Pirush, he gives an explanation, the deeper explanation in this verse. And that is, just to preface, we know in the creation of the world, when God created the world, God, the Torah uses the name of God that created the world. And it is throughout the Genesis, it mentions the name Elokim, Bereshit bara Elokim. In the beginning, God created. And that name of Elokim is mentioned throughout the creation. As a matter of fact, it's mentioned 32 times. And then when it comes to Shabbat, it says, uses the term Hashem Elokim, uses also the name, the Yud and the Hey, the Vav and the Hey, Yud Kei Vav Kei, Havayah, as we call it. So that he introduces this name also. And here, there is other verses that talks about that Hashem created the world. The name Hashem, which one is it? And the answer is no contradiction, there's both. There is the name Havayah, which is the higher name of God, represents the light, Elokim. The name Elokim represents the contraction. The word Elokim is also has the numerical value of Hateva, which means the nature. The nature is a concealment to that intense light of Havayah. And here this is something that the Alter Rebbe is going to explain throughout this part of the Tanya, the Shaar Hayichud VeHaemuna. Says the Alter Rebbe, Ki neksiv, it is written, Ki shemesh u'magen Havayah Elokim. For the sun and a shield is Havayah and Elokim. You call it Havayah. Havayah means it's the name, the Yud, the Hey, and the Vav, and the Hey, but we turn around the word, the letters, switch around the letters because we do not want to use God's name, so we say Havayah. And the same thing is with Elokim. It is written with a Hey, but we substitute the Hey to the Kuf and say Elokim because we don't want to pronounce the name of God in vain. So in any case, it says the Alter Rebbe Kineksiv, it says Kishemesh U'Mogen Havayah Elokim, the sun and the shield refers to Havayah, is Hashem Elokim, and it says Pirush. Pirush, whenever the Alter Rebbe says Pirush, means he wants to give a deeper explanation in that verse. So he says, what is the deeper explanation? Magen unatik lashemesh. When we say Kishemesh U'Magen, the sun and its shield, the shield refers to specifically that shield which is a covering for the sun. Lahagen sheyuchlu abriyos lesavloi, to protect creatures so that they should be able to bear it. Without the shield, the people would not be able to bear the tremendous light of the shield, of the sun. As our sages explain, La'asid Lavai, they tell us, La'asid Lavai, in the future when Mashiach comes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Moitzi Chama Min Ha'teika. Hashem, God, the Holy One, blessed be He, will take out the sun from its sheath the sheath, the shield of the sun. Reshoim nidonim ba'achulu. And it says the wicked will be punished by it. Why? Because they will be unable to bear the intensity of the sun. And then the passage goes on to say that the righteous will not only be able to tolerate it, but they will actually be healed by it. Why? Because this sun, the light of the sun represents a very powerful spiritual light. Wicked people who are all about themselves, spirituality, godliness, nullifies them. So they become nullified because when they're full of themselves, godliness is something that it's too powerful, too intense for them. But the tzaddikim, the people who are connected with Hashem, on the contrary, they will be able to contain this powerful, intense spiritual light. So this, as the Alter Rebbe, and just as the covering shield of the sun, that shields the sun, so does the name Elokim shield the name of Havayah, blessed be He. Which means that the name Elokim enables the created universe to absorb the divine illumination that comes from the name Havayah. Havayah represents a very powerful, intense light. And he explains why. The Shem Havayah, because the name Havayah, the Yud, the Hey, the Vav, and the Hey, Pirushoy, Shemehave es hakol me'ayin leyesh. The name itself, Havayah, means the word in the name, the word Yud Kei Vav Kei, it has the Hey, the Vav, the Hey, and the Yud. Hey, Vav, Hey is Haveh. Haveh means being, existing. It means that this is the source of all existence. That this brings about everything into existence, something from nothing. Ex nihilo. Vehayud. And what is the Yud? The Yud that is in the beginning of the name. Vehayud, says the Alter Rebbe, meshameshes ala peula shebil shein hoive v'samit. The letter Yud, the prefix with the stem hoive, modifies the verb, indicating that the action is present and continuous. And he brings an example where the letter Yud turns the word and makes it continuous. So the example is from the verse in Job, in Eov. Rashi al pasuk, as Rashi comments on the verse, Kocha yase Eov kol hayamin. In this manner was Job, Eov, accustomed to do all the days. Yase. If you want to say that this is what Eov did in Hebrew, you would say Kacha asa Eov. This is what he did. The letter Yud that you put in the beginning of the word, it makes it permanent. That this is something continuous. So the same thing is when you're talking about Havayah, the letter, the Havayah, the Yud, the Hey, the Vav, and the Hey. So the Hey, the Vav, and the Hey is Hava, means creation, means bringing existence. The Yud makes it constant. That is constant existence, constant bringing into existence. V'hainu, achayus anishpa b'chol rega mamesh, b'chol abruim mimoitza pi Havayah v'ruchai. So this action is the life force which flows at every single instant into all things created. And it flows from where? From that which proceeds from the mouth of God. And his breath, and it brings them into existence ex nihilo, at every moment. Because the fact that they were created during the 6 days of creation is not sufficient for their continuous existence. As explained above, that in order for in order for us to exist, it's not enough that God creates it once. He needs to constantly create us, because He creates us something from nothing. So that is the Havayah. The name Havayah is the constant light of Hashem and the continuous creation. Now says the Alter Rebbe, והנה, בסידור שבחיו של הקדוש ברוך הוא כסיב, הגדול, הגיבור וכו'. When we daven in the Siddur, the Amidah, we say the praise of Hashem. What do we say? Baruch atah Hashem, Hakel, Hagadol, Hagibor, VeHaneira. The great one, the mighty one, Hagibor, the mighty one, and so on. This is, the Talmud tells us that there was once a student decided to give more praise to Hashem. He started saying, we say Hagel, Hagadol, Hagibor, VeHaneira, the great, the mighty, the awesome one, whatever the translation of Haneira is. And this student decided to give more titles, more terms to Hashem, to make Hashem even greater. So he kept going and going until he stopped. And the rabbi asked him, okay, that's it. You know, no more you have to say about Hashem? So in other words, the praises that you give Hashem is limiting Hashem, limiting God. No matter how many praises you're going to say, it is limiting God. So why do we say these verses, these praises? These praises we say because Moshe Rabbeinu mentioned this. And Moshe Rabbeinu mentioned these praises. It's, as we say in the Torah, Hagadol, Hagibor, VeHaneira. Those are the praises that we mentioned. So here it explains what is the term Gadol, the term great. This refers to the level, the concept, the attribute of chesed, kindness. His greatness is his kindness. In fact, this is also we say by davening in the morning, when we say L'cha Hashem Hagdula, Hagvura, V'Tiferes, and so on. This enumerates the 7 attributes. We have the Chesed, the Gvura, the Tiferes. So from the Gvura and Tiferes and on, it says clearly. But when it comes to Chesed, it mentions L'cha Hashem Hagdula, the greatness, because the greatness refers to Chesed, refers to kindness. Well, Pirush Hagadol, says the Alter Rebbe, what is the meaning of Hagadol? Hagadol refers to Himidas HaChesed VeHispashtus. This is the attribute of Chesed, the kindness, and the spreading forth. Vispashtus HaChayus B'chol HaOlamos Ubruim Le'en Ketz V'Tachlis. The spreading forth of the life force into all the worlds and created things without end or limit. This is the chesed, this is the greatness. So that they shall be created ex nihilo and exist through the gratuitous kindness. For God maintains all creatures whether they are worthy His kindness or not. That's called chesed chinam. V'nikris gdula, and this attribute of chesed is called gdula, greatness. Why? Because it derives from the greatness of the Holy One, blessed be He, from Himself in all His glory. As it says in the verse, for God is great, and His greatness is unsearchable, because it is an infinite. And therefore, mashpia gamkein chayus veisavus me'ayin leyesh la'olamos subruim ein kates. And therefore, he says he also causes life force and existence ex nihilo to issue forth for an unlimited number of worlds and creatures. Sheteva hatoiv lehetiv, because it is the nature of the benevolent to do good. So this is what he explains is the name, the Havayah. The name Havayah represents the greatness of Hashem, the kindness of Hashem, which is the unlimited kindness. However, that itself will be too powerful to contain. So this is what is going to be to explain tomorrow's lesson, starting to explain the concept of Elokim, the idea of the tzimtzum, the contraction that Hashem, part of the kindness is to be able to contract his light so that we shall be able to absorb it and benefit from the light. This is the end of today's class. Thank you so much for joining. And Bezrat Hashem will continue tomorrow.